I consider myself a Tron fan. I spent a year writing a 3-hour-long Tron script. I've made edits and studied the lore. I'm writing a season 2 of Tron Uprising, so I was excited when I heard Tron 3 was finally making it out of development hell and onto the big screen. I reinstalled Instagram to spread the word. I was skeptical, but who wasn't? Well, I should have trusted my gut because this film, ladies and gentlemen, is the byproduct of people who don't care and the people who shouldn't be in charge. Tron Ares is a layer cake of disappointment, from its VFX and score all the way down to the writing. The plot is simple. Two companies want to use the same tech for different purposes. Dillinger wants to use this 3D printer for the military, and Encom wants to use it for good.
Feed the hungry, cure the sick, educate the world.
Provide food and shelter for the homeless, and oppose racial
But
discrimination.
we're not shown how bad the tech would be if it was used for military purposes. At most, we see some cars get flipped and 2 fighter jets get demolished, and Julian says lightning fast, but it takes Ares and Athena a full 29 minutes to catch one person, and they barely do that. On the flip side, we're not shown poverty at all, just the 1% of the world's business corporations, so we don't know how much AI-generated oranges would really help out this Earth. We're not shown the stakes, so there's nothing to grasp. The other concept that this movie tries to grapple with is the corporate espionage side of things. One of the best scenes in the whole film is Ares and his crew breaking into the Encom grid building. They have to fight security programs and get to a data center where they steal some information. We're told what they're stealing, why they're stealing it, we see them steal it. Things go sour, and then we're shown some key pieces of information on our characters. Jared Leto is still a womanizer, looking at girls' texting logs, and Julian Dillinger doesn't care about his programs. This is one good scene. Everything else that deals with the corporations is so bland and just doesn't really have a payoff. And that's because this scene, unlike others, put in the work to make us care about this moment in time. An example of this is our made-up 29-minute timer. Why do physical materials destabilize? Doesn't make any sense. I have no clue. Why did Kevin Flynn create this code and then forget about it in Legacy? I don't know. I have no clue. It should add some tension, but it doesn't because of the film's misunderstanding of the fact that tension has to be earned, and that there isn't such thing as a one-trick pony. You can't just slap a 29-minute timer on there, and then boom, you get tension. Ares has 29 minutes to go to Encom, set up the Shiva laser, and find Kevin Flynn himself to gain permanence, but they're given a slow van. Even Ares decides to stop for 10 minutes at a gas station to steal this guy's Honda Civic. They miraculously go to Encom, which is 15 to 20 minutes away, set up the laser, and Ares makes it into the grid. You do the math, the movie doesn't follow its own 29-minute rule. Another time, Athena betrays Julian and only has 30 minutes to fulfill her directive before she's shut down permanently. So, she decides to print not only one of the largest vehicles in the franchise, but also the slowest vehicle in this franchise. It takes about 20 minutes of runtime to print, 15 minutes to fly over to the city, so now we're left with 4 minutes to find Eve in the giant city, capture her, which they could barely do in 30 minutes last time, and bring her all the way back to the Dillinger building that resides 15-ish minutes away. It is physically impossible to do all of that in 29 minutes. Yet again, the movie does not follow its own rule. Another example of the writers being lazy is their excuse for Kevin Flynn being in this movie at all. There was a legitimate setup, with Sam's hard drive possibly containing the remnants of Kevin's memories from the grid, and then he could use that hard drive to rebuild a digital father, so to speak. But instead they went with,
I exist in this moment because you do.
somehow Palpatine returned. Same strokes, different folks. It's so bizarre to me that the supposed most boring character from Legacy, Sam Flynn, has more interesting character development than all of the characters in Tron Ares, perhaps all the characters in Tron Ares combined. Any sequel to a beloved franchise, there is exactly one recurring character. I did like how Evan Peters played Julian as this eccentric trust fund kid. I even had a new vocal stim because of him.
So much talk of AI and big tech today.
I say it a lot. It just pops in my head. Anytime someone talks about AI, I'm just like, oh, so much talk about AI and big tech today. Well, but that's besides the point. His character is still just a bland, mustache-twirling, money-loving geek. Eve Kim is talking to Ares about how Julian is evil and he doesn't care who stands in his way. He'll just obliterate anyone who tries opposing him. But then she's all surprised when
Extraction of the code may result in deresolution of the carrier.
What? That's so crazy. Like, what? She understands that he's willing to kill people and then is surprised when he kills people. That's stupid. I also find it crazy that Julian witnesses his mother die and just sits there for 30 minutes while like his programs are killing people that, oh, we don't even see him kill anyone down in the city. And rather than having a change of heart, he's like, dang, these programs killed my mom. I should do something about this. He just like locks himself away in the grid. He just bails. Him being in the grid opens up another can of worms. In the post-credit scene, we see him becoming Sark, his grandfather's old program, one of the main villains in the first film. Nothing about this makes any sense. Tron isn't Alan Bradley, he merely copies his likeness.
If Alan went onto the grid, he wouldn't become Tron.
He would simply get an identity disc like Sam did. Julian shouldn't be the next Sark because that's just not how programs work. It was a cheap way to get clip farms rolling, and that worked. I can't wait for Tron 4. I can't wait. The average Tron fan was probably drooling in the theater going like, look at Sark. It's the guy from the first movie. This is so cool. It's like actually insane that a lot of fans look at this as cool and interesting because it's literally just a cameo at the end that is probably not going to go anywhere and probably shouldn't go anywhere because it's just so lazy. It doesn't even follow the pre-established rules of the universe. That's how lazy it is. I also find it funny that Jared Leto just plays himself in the role, a soulless robot trying to fit in society and failing miserably.
You read all my texts.
Yeah, I read them all.
Some of it's highly personal, and I just can't get enough. I just can't get enough.
I think Ares was the best written character. Take that with a grain of salt. Though they just didn't really dive deep into why he really wanted to live longer than 30 minutes. He basically touched the rein and was like, hey, Julian, why did you kill that mindless drone program? The stuff that they did go over was pretty surface level, nothing new in the very old question of, can robots feel emotions? I think probably the coolest moment, my favorite moment, personally, in a film was when he tries to explain his love for Depeche Mode, which they never set up at all. He just like is randomly yapping about Depeche Mode one day. I was like, is there a moment in time where you heard Depeche Mode? And we're like, yeah, this is goated. They don't set that up at all. We just have to kind of take his word for it. But he cannot put into words his love for Depeche Mode. This is super relatable as a human being. There are sometimes I just want to yap about something that I love, and I love it so much I just cannot put into words how much I love it. I feel that way about the Tron franchise. I feel that way about, my YouTube channel. You know what I mean? It's pretty human. And that is one conversation in the movie. In a 2-hour-long movie, there is one decent conversation. Another very dull character is the assistant, played by Arturo Castro. Genuinely cannot remember his name. But yeah, that character is the most bland, stale, boring, vanilla, unflavorful, dull, dry, drab, unexciting, uninspired, weak, vapid, flat, colorless, tasteless, feeble, unimaginative comedic relief character I've seen in a long time. He literally doesn't say anything funny. And when he talks about the microwave burritos at the beginning, I literally just zone out because I just do not care.
I think this is my 95th breakfast burrito, and
He gets thrown into an arcade cabinet by Athena at one point in the film, and the millisecond they cut away, I forget about him. The only reason I remember him is that he's forgettable. I couldn't tell you like a single character trait about him. I couldn't tell you his motivations or anything. He's a nothing burger. Not even a burger. He's just like the invisible sandwich that Fred is eating. But there's no invisible sandwich. It's just eating air. There's no sustenance to his character or to any of these characters really, except for maybe like 3. It's like eating a pickle and then saying, "Yeah, I'm full." The assistant character is literally so incompetent. This is another thing. He's so incompetent. It baffles me as to how he's the assistant to the CEO of Incom. They could have replaced him for a slightly more confident but still bland character that was played by Hassan Minaj. I think the AJ is the name of the character. But still, wouldn't have really been a huge upgrade. Or maybe they could have just had Eve Kim be Sam Flynn and then Alan Bradley be the assistant character because Alan Bradley's actually kind of funny. He has like a sense of humor, especially the Tron program. Not the same person, by the way, but still, reflects a little bit of the characteristics. But no, they had to go a completely different route and just reboot the whole franchise. Speaking of Eve Kim, I'm not even giving any real reasons to care for her. Like, I'm just not given anything. She's trying to complete her sister's mission of finding permanence, but then she just wants to bail on the company. Like, she's so uninterested in permanence outside of her sister's mission that I do not care about where it goes. And even then, she finishes her sister's mission within the first 30 minutes. She's like, oh, permanence, that's cool. I guess I should get this file back to Encom. Okay, so 30 minutes in, the emotional crux of the film is just completed. Now I just don't care. All right. The very last character I want to go over is Athena. She supposedly gets Ares' powers. She becomes, biblically strong, lightning fast, and supremely intelligent. But there is nothing about this scene that I'm playing on screen right now. Nothing about it says supremely intelligent. The average person would not flip over a whole bunch of arcade cabinets when you know the person is crawling underneath it. It's like tunnel vision. It's like, I just want to lift heavy objects and throw them. No, you just you have the gun too. You could sneak down underneath the arcade cabinets and sniper. Like, she's lining up the shot perfectly for you, and you decide to waste your precious time. Waste your precious time to flip the arcade cabinets over. Supremely intelligent, more like freaking supremely dumb. Yeah. Is this peak writing? Is this absolute cinema? My script? It's beautiful. Ares is supposed to be a sequel to a long-running franchise, but it seems to want nothing to do with its most popular predecessor. Maybe that's a hot take, but I do think Legacy is probably the most popular. It's the most palatable, at least. It has no continuity with Legacy, but the writers must have realized that we, the fan base, would not let that slide, so they shoehorned in the most basic cameos and references. I'm talking surface-level nods that amount to nothing. The fans love the intro to Legacy, the blue Disney castle. It's awesome, okay? So they copy it and make it red. That's they could have tried to imagine something new that fit the movie better. Like, what if the digitizing lasers, the ones that print out, Athena and Ares and all of them, it prints out the Disney logo? That would have been so cool. But no, they didn't. They just went with what they knew was going to work, what they knew was going to get clip farmed, and it got clip farmed into oblivion when the trailer came out. Rather than being creative, they just went with the same old, which is crazy that they can't decide between going with what they know works and just doing something completely different and not knowing how to pull that off. Speaking of Sam Flynn, they referenced him a handful of times because the previous movies set him up to return, and they just forgot about this. So they're like, they're probably going to ask, oh, where's Sam? So, okay, we'll just say Sam Flynn stepped down for personal reasons. Why? What are the reasons? Oh, I guess we'll just have to wait another 15 years when the next movie comes out. You guys realize Garrett Hedlund, who plays Sam, is 41 right now? He's going to be old, and they're going to have to de-age him or explain the time jump, which we do not have time for that. They couldn't even do that in this movie. It's so odd that Disney wasted time with the development and then decided to reboot, but not really reboot the franchise. Does Disney just forget that people age? There are also giant, gaping plot holes. The first one, I have been informed, and after some further research, is technically not a plot hole. I originally thought that the idea of Kevin Flynn making the permanence code was a plot hole, because if Kevin Flynn made the code, why was he so worried about Clue getting out? Well, the permanence code is actually a code found deep within the ISOs, which are not mentioned or explained in Ares. This is the miracle that Kevin Flynn was talking about in Tron Legacy. He was worried about Clue and decided to transport some of the ISOs into the ARC grid. Now, the ARC grid is the one we see in the two video games Tron Catalyst and Tron Identity. He made a backup copy of this miracle code and put it on a floppy disk. This is what Eve Kim finds in Tron Ares. He never had time to mess with it because he got trapped back in '89. This is where the permanence code comes in. Clue would have been able to use Kevin's disk at the end of Legacy to escape the grid and survive past the 30-minute threshold had he not been stopped. So technically, the permanence code doesn't create a plot hole and is explained well if and only if you're a super fan of Tron and have played 2 games and watched 2 movies and you connected the loose thread like a detective. But for the average moviegoer that only watched Ares and probably Legacy, you are completely left in the dark, which is still a fault on Ares' behalf, seeing as permanence is the driving force behind the plot. We cannot connect to your theme if you don't properly explain it. The other plot hole was created when Athena destroys the only Shiva laser connecting the real world to the 82 Encom grid. The writers wrote themselves into a corner trying to get some easy tension, oh, how is Ares gonna get out? but there was genuinely no way out. Some executive was probably like, what about Kevin Flynn's private grid under the arcade? It pisses me off that fans, so-called fans of the franchise, excuse this blunder because they should know that Kevin Flynn's private grid under the arcade was completely disconnected, because it's private, from everything. There is no way to go from the 82 Encom grid to any other grid because the private grid was private. It's a blatant disregard for the franchise's pre-established lore. Some other smaller plot holes are sprinkled in there because the writers just weren't creative enough to realize that humans are creative in nature. Like, these soulless husk zombies that have never met a real person in their life are like, humans are creative and curious? What? Me, as an audience member, you're telling me that Julian has a portable gun that he knows turns physical objects into digital objects, like turns them into nothing and then into something again, and he doesn't think even once, where does this gun lead to? Where does this go? He never tested this on anyone. He's so willing to put people like at risk, and he never thinks, maybe if I shoot that person, then they'll go somewhere, and then I can find a way to print them out again. And then ask them, hey, what was it like whenever I shot you with a gun? They never did that. It wasn't until he was backed into a corner and was like, maybe I can reverse this thing and see where my programs live at. He never thought of that? And it's the same thing with Encom. You're telling me that Sam Flynn came home from the private arcade grid and decided not to tell anyone, and no one questioned, oh, Cora, this new chick that you're dating, where did she come from? And why does she act so naive? Like she's like a 27-year-old woman that does not know anything about this world. No one questioned that. Is every single person in the world of Tron just the most brain-dead, unimaginative, feeble-minded buffoons?
Where am I?
Oh man, this is happening.
The funniest thing to me, though, is that Tron and his creator Alan Bradley genuinely aren't even mentioned in a Tron movie. Tron isn't uttered. Not even once, not even mentioned. Tron wasn't ever the main character in the other movies, but he was always in the background. He was the most fun character in the first film. He was the most badass character in Legacy. He had a ton of screen time in Uprising. He was central to the plot of Tron Uprising. Where is my boy Tron in the Tron movie? He was literally set up to come back. It is so infuriating to me that Tron Ares has such blatant disrespect for its heritage. It doesn't play out like a Tron film. It just loosely uses concepts like grids and programs as a way to get more butts and seats. Like, if you remove some of like the Tron terminology, first of all, it would still be a terrible film, but it would be a terrible film that I wouldn't care about. The only reason I watched it is because it said Tron on it. And then I walked out of it and I was like, that's barely even a Tron movie. It's not even a Tron movie. It is pretty near unanimous that the score and the VFX are the best parts of the film, which I agree with. But I do find it odd that we have Oscar-winning composers in the form of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and yet the score just doesn't work. A lot of people, when Legacy came out, and still to this day, refer to it as a 2-hour music video for Daft Punk's new album, but I never saw it that way. The score was so well integrated that listening to the music made me want to watch the movie because I could picture each scene playing out. This is how I am with every notable score, like Oblivion and Interstellar. And when I finished the movie, I want to listen to the music more so I can relive the movie. It's a cycle. Tron Ares doesn't do that for me. There are only a few memorable songs, with the rest just feeling like ambient tracks. No Going Back and Nemesis are literally just shortened instrumentals of Who Wants to Live Forever and As Alive as You Need Me to Be, respectively. Which tells me the composers knew more about the themes of the movie than the director did. It's like Reznor and Ross were told, okay, these songs are cool, but I don't want the vocals in the scene. Okay, Disney. What was even the point in hiring an alt-rock band that sings if you don't want their vocals? There also aren't any recurring Leah motifs besides one. This doesn't really have any themes that it's tied to. It's just kind of put in random tracks. And on top of that, it's rarely the star of the track, just a subterranean background instrument I had to dig for. I'm not hating on the album itself. I have had a handful of songs on repeat since it's dropped. I'm just saying it feels like they made a score for a movie, and then the director or someone behind that process was like, no. And then they just completely chopped it up. Some of the songs are used multiple times and they're just thrown on there. An example, Forged Reality is a track that plays while Ares is talking to Dillinger, and the music just overpowers the boring conversation. It doesn't elevate the scene, it becomes it. It's one of the first movies I've ever watched where the score genuinely does not fit. The other thing that people like about this movie is the CGI. It is pretty good. The Dillinger grid looks kind of interesting, but it just feels uninspired. It honestly, it just feels like some Disney executive was like, let's get Vancouver and put some red lights in it. Also, at the end of the light cycle chase, when Ares and Athena are chasing after Eve Kim, Ares ramps off of a light wall, and the physics go like super wonky as he flies through the air. This stuff is more noticeable in the real world because we spend tons of time on Earth. This world just feels flat and boring. It's uninspired, and quite frankly, it doesn't make me want to be on the grid like the first two films do. I don't want to explore the Dillinger and Encom grids because we just kind of see it all. There's no games or terrain. It's just a large corporate building that houses files. And like the Dillinger grid is like a shipping yard, which, okay, hold on. This is something else I just realized. Ares and Eve, when they're escaping from Athena, are riding across the water in a light skimmer, and they just go into this hole. And like suddenly they're out in the real world. It's stupid because it's like, do none of the programs think, hey, I know where this hole goes? We can just leave at any time. Julian literally has no control. Literally has no control. He just hits print and like it teleports him. The programs could just constantly be pouring out and he would have no way to stop it. I think that's like actually kind of insane. That's like some oversight. But it's like, oh, how on earth are Ares and Eve gonna get out of the grid? Oh, back door.
So much talk of AI and big tech today.
Like I said from the start, I am a huge Tron fan, but I'm also a fan of the art of film. So I'm not so quick to say that this movie is awesome, like some other Tron fans. Quite frankly, I think it's a huge disservice to the Tron franchise to hold this anywhere close to the other projects. You can't glaze a turd. So by saying it's as good as a brownie, you bring the brownie down to the turds level. And that's just not fair to the brownie. The other films and TV shows in this franchise are the brownies in this example. They have some flaws. Maybe it's not a perfect brownie. It's not a 10 out of 10, but at least it's a good brownie. It tastes fantastic. Narratively speaking, soundtrack wise, character wise, the brownies are not riddled with gaping plot holes or god awful snooze fest characters or a score that doesn't seem to fit. Tron Ares makes me ashamed of being a Tron fan because I can't look someone in the eyes and say, I love Tron. It is super great. I love pretty much everything about Tron. Because when that person responds with, oh, well, what about Ares? I genuinely have nothing of value to say. The executives made us wait 15 years for a regurgitated corporate slop turd and said, we tried our best. Now eat it like a good boy. The film is so disconnected from its foundation, I like to refer to it as a shitty fan fiction, because that's what it is. Jared Leto's nostalgia-filled fun time fan fiction. As Tron fans, we shouldn't be so quick to eat up the poop that they give us, because I don't know about you guys, I don't want to wait another 15 years for another crappy Tron Ares. We deserve better than that. And that's why I decided to write a framework for Season 2 to Tron Uprising, which is nearing completion. There's going to be some rudimentary storyboards and pictures to kind of guide you through my season. My hope is you guys can just watch it like it's a brand new season, but I'm using my knowledge of scripts and how to make them interesting. I'm using my knowledge as a Tron fan. I did a lot of research for a whole year to make a 3-hour long video. I basically am getting what I wanted out of a Tron Uprising Season 2. I'm avoiding mistakes that were made in Tron Ares, and I'm making you guys a little package deal on my, not affiliated with Disney. This is a completely side project hobby of mine. I'm not expecting to make any monetary value off of this. It's just something I was interested in. Thank you guys for listening to me rant today. I've been wanting to get this off my chest since it came out, and well, now that it's on digital, there's high quality footage of it out there. So that's why it took so long. Thank you guys for watching. I love you all. Have a good day.